kick things off, we're going to open it up for questions in a moment, but to kick things off, I wanted to ask, obviously this film has a tremendous amount of importance right now. It's really important for people to see it. Can you tell us sort of how you're using the film to raise awareness, and what are your hopes that after seeing this film, what can people do?
Well, I'll start out. And also, sorry, before we start with this, I just realized there's a lot of people in the crowd who actually helped and worked on the film. Gavin Guerra did graphics. Tamara is here, and Franz, just raise your hands. These guys also did motion graphics. Other people here, I know there's some other people that I must be missing. If anybody else is here that I'm missing that worked on the film, please raise your hand. Because
Andrea, we also filmed you at Uncut Boston with Chris Priest. You're having a small cameo.
So thank you guys very much. One of the ways that we're starting to get the film out is we've been doing some festivals. We premiered it at the Sundance Film Festival this year, and we've been doing some other festivals. And now we're getting it to universities and continuing with the festivals. And also we're working with a lot of nonprofit organizations that are working on these issues. Like US CURG is one of the organizations that's really doing work on the closing the tax loopholes issue. And so we're partnering with them, and different organizations are going to be able to use short clips of the film for their work on these issues. So that's one way that we're doing that, and they're helping us get screenings going around the country in many other cities. So that's one of the things we're doing. And if you guys have anything to add.
I just want to say that there's also tremendous international interest in this film. And I have distributed the film to friends in Finland, Argentina, Israel, Australia. This is a global issue, and it's actually a global movement. And the UK as well is very much in the forefront of this movement to get corporations in particular, and wealthy individuals in general, to pay a fair share of taxes.
Yeah. So, and I would like to take questions from you. And what we're going to do is we may have to repeat questions to make sure everyone hears it. So please raise your hand if you would like.
I think the only mic that's working is the far
Thanks.
one.
Yeah. Thanks for telling us. Okay. All right. There you go. Anyone want to start? Well, if not. I had a question for you, Jim, actually. Obviously, we've been hearing a lot about sort of super PACs in this election, and I think a lot of people here, not in the Occupy movement, are really concerned about how, exactly what's going on with that, and what do you feel can be done?
One of the themes of the film is that we really have one-party state in this country from the standpoint of policies toward taxation. There is relatively little debate in this election, if you've noticed, about corporate tax. There's some discussion of the Obama plan to have a higher tax on millionaires, but even that is pretty subdued, and almost no debate about banks. One of the key things that we've highlighted here is that effectively we have a kind of representation without taxation, not only for big companies, but also for wealthy individuals who are now, under the rules established by the Supreme Court in 2011, in the Citizens United case, they treated money as speech, so there's unlimited contributions. And in this campaign, we're just seeing the impact. 2008 elections were $1 billion. This is going to be $2 billion per candidate in this election. And much of the money that's flowing right now, especially into Romney in the last 6 weeks of the election, will be coming from these outfits that are corporate entities that we don't even know who the contributors are or whether they are from the United States. So it's a major challenge for us to overturn that horrendous decision, because it basically makes it almost impossible to get the kind of political influence that we need across these two parties on these issues.
Yes. Sorry, all the way In the back, yeah.
Sorry. I think the film really neatly lays out that essentially politicians in democratic countries are bought and paid for by these interests. So if we make the assumption that whoever you vote for, you get the same kind of people driving them on, what can we actually do to change the situation?
Did everyone hear that, or can I repeat part of it? I guess it seems that no matter which candidate is elected, we're still stuck with the same situation, and it's a little hard to know what exactly we can do.
So that's exactly why the Occupy movement is so important to me and a lot of other people in this room. And I think really the ultimate thing we need to build up towards, and this is going to require organizing on a massive scale, but is a general strike where no one turns on the gas pumps for a day, no one delivers the newspaper, no one answers the phone, nobody cleans the bedspreads at the hotels. We, the 99%, have to literally shut down the economy and make the 1% realize that they need us to make this country run. And I think the more the 99% talk to each other to realize that we actually do have immense power just in the potential of a general strike. So I'd like to see that as the ultimate solution. Until then, I would recommend, disregarding what the media says about, third-party candidates who actually do have really great platforms and, give people like Jill Stein and Rocky Anderson a chance. Find members of Congress who speak individually on issues like taxation, like fair treatment of drug regulation, and a lot of those other issues, and just really focus more on those local races, State House, Congress, and just focus on that while we're building towards general strike.
I think there was another question here.
I just wanted to, I thought it was very timely and really well done, but I think it's clearly a highly complex subject. And I think it's easy to kind of come away from this having a sense of what's going on, but the complexity, there's no way you can deal with this kind of complexity. So I think we have a sense of what's going on, but to study this in depth, I mean, you've got PhDs and professors that I'm sure have to study for years to really understand what's going on. And I think that this is something that it just seems to me to be, something that has to be dealt with in terms of what we do and how do we move forward. What do we know, and what kind of arguments do we do against those who are on the other side, right? It ain't easy.
I think one point about the complexity is that this film is a good example of being able to combine a profile of the activism with the complexity. I mean, I've shown this film on a lot of different law school campuses, and professors are saying, God, you're right at the cutting edge of the leading issues in tax avoidance. So we're doing some basic education here, and I think it's kind of up to the audience to get hold of a piece of this and decide what do they want to understand more. There's an enormous amount of material available behind this film, and I think that's a challenge, but I think we're finding that the film communicates this nice combination of how ordinary people can understand this stuff at a sufficient level that they understand the outrage and they understand why they need to be upset about it. The point about what we can do about this issue, I mean, every major issue that we mentioned in the film historically, about slavery, about women's rights, about child labor, those were all issues that no party sponsored change for. So it all came out of grassroots movement and outrage from people who took the time to inform themselves about what's going on. So there's no simple solution. This is a long-term movement, and Occupy has been very good at making the basic issue of inequality come to the surface. But we now also have to decide what are the 3 or 4 things we really care about going forward that we want to demand from both parties.
And I just want to add something to that along the lines of what Jim was saying, is that we did a screening, and Representative Hanson Clark came to our screening in Detroit. He was a freshman congressman from Detroit. And people asked him, what can we do, et cetera. And he said, well, I'm a politician, and our main goal, our main priority is getting reelected. He said, that's what we're focusing on, and I have to be honest about that. He said, but the one thing that does happen, he said, most of the congresspeople or the representatives generally wanted to do the right thing, but they were so concerned with getting reelected that the people, the voting public, has to force them to do the right thing. And so he was really turning it back to the public and saying, you guys have to force us to do the right thing, because, essentially we're focused on something else, sadly. But I thought that was probably the most honest I'd heard a politician speaking recently.
Yes.
I want to commend you on really a well-made film, but obviously you made certain choices in terms of the subject matter. I don't recall you mentioning the possibility of a Tobin tax on currency speculation or stock transfers. You don't mention the possibility of a wealth tax. There's $15 trillion that's held by high net worth individuals in the United States in investable assets. You didn't mention really the fact that in the 1950s the marginal tax rate was 91%. And FDR at one point proposed a top marginal tax rate of 100%. And I would just add to that, that's because the common sense was labor creates all wealth. So it was possible to have these marginal tax rates. Why not at least introduce these as other options?
I can't even begin to try to reframe that.
Thank you for that question. And just before we forget, I want to thank the festival. What you guys have done and what festivals, progressive film festivals have done is get the word out about these types of issues that no one wants to show anymore. So thank you so much for all of you, Michelle and Jennifer and everyone else. I also want to let everyone know that the song that was rolling with the credits is by Chris Priest. He wrote that before anybody was out in Zuccotti and even before US Uncut started. So when I first heard it, I said, this embodies so much of it. So you can find that on chrispriestmusic.com. And what I would like to say about putting these other things in a film is that, you have to make choices as a filmmaker. We only covered corporate income tax in this film. The first thing Karin and I went and looked for was our executive producer, and we talked to him, and he said, I want to do something about how offshore is bearing global economies and how these tax havens are. We had no idea where to even begin to look. Karin and I have no background in anything financial. I mean, we don't even have money. So, we're like, okay, so we're gonna, chase after these super rich tax cheats, and we're gonna find those individuals that are hiding money illegally. And we would start going to people like Jim, like Rebecca from Citizens for Tax Justice and others. We would say, tell us the story about, the super rich guy who hid money, and they'd say, well, that's really important. But what's even worse is what the corporations are doing. And we were so ignorant about the issue, like many people, we'd say, really, which one? We're going to scoop this thing on these couple companies, and they'd say, all of them. And we were so astounded that everything around us all of a sudden looked like the big monster. You're filling up your car at Exxon, you're paying buying your iPhone, you're paying your cell phone bill to Verizon, and every one of these big companies that we deal with every day is cheating us. And for us, it made us so furious that that's the road we went down, and we just focused on that. But everything you said is very important, and all those things could help bring our deficit down.
I'm old enough to remember T-Gens in the 60s, and so one of the things we can do with a film like this is have it be part of a program. But we could talk about all of the injustice in the tax code that you've mentioned. There's no excuse for not having a 70% marginal tax rate on high incomes. I mean, there's just no evidence that would cut off hard work. We've recently stumbled on the fact that there's 21 trillion to 32 trillion of offshore financial wealth sitting in havens, individual wealth that's owned by the top 0.1% on the planet. That's another whole problem. The Tobin tax you mentioned is another, I think, the idea of taxing. This is a simple idea when you think about it. All the trading that's going on Wall Street of currencies and stocks and bonds, you could attach a tiny tax to that. 0.5%, would generate enough to pay for the whole foreign aid budget of the world. So there are lots of things we can do, and we should start thinking about how to organize these teach-ins so we as citizens become part of the knowledge base in this area. I think we need to take that responsibility on.
We have time for one more question, and then we'll continue the conversation outside. Actually, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't go to the side of the room, so yes.
I want to know what was the decision of the Supreme Court in the Citizen United 5-4, and also what is the possibility of, or is anyone trying to bring that back into the Supreme Court for a new
So the question is,
hearing? About the Citizen United, if it's, someone is trying to bring it back to be heard on the Supreme Court, and was it a 5-4 decision when they did that?
It was 5-4, yeah. There is an amendment to the Constitution that I think Bernie Sanders, I might be wrong on that, proposed. But yeah, it was 5-4, and there are people working. So obviously, one of the most important things that we need to work on is overturning that and going even further, because it was already way too much money in politics before Citizens United. That was just kind of like the last straw, and it's really blatant, obvious, in our face example of how bad it's gotten. But yeah, it's something we have to overturn. There are a couple things that have been proposed in the Senate, but they haven't gotten far as I know.
And just adding to that, they had also ruled on Montana. Montana was the only state that had actually challenged the Citizens United ruling in the Supreme Court, because their attorney general said, we have a law that prohibits, corporate spending in our elections, and so we feel that this infringes on our state's laws. And so the Supreme Court actually nullified Montana's ruling on that. But like Chris said, the Move to Amend movement is actually really strong, and we can force a constitutional amendment if 2/3 of the states agree that there needs to be one, and then the House and Senate have to agree to that, and then it goes to the president's desk. But there's already been several state legislatures like Vermont, Hawaii, New Mexico, a few others that are bringing up such amendments. I would encourage folks to go to their communities, go to your city council meeting, present a resolution that you can find on movetoamend.org, present that to your city council, go visit your state representative, your state senators with a diverse group and say, we want you to bring this up in the next session. And I believe in the next year we could really see a whole lot of states adopt anti-Citizens United resolutions, which is how we overturn that ruling.
So just to finish up, so where can everyone find out more, tell their friends about the film, and get a copy? Thanks.
Yeah, we have a website. It's we'renotbrokemovie.com if you want to share it with anybody. We have DVDs actually for sale out there, and the film is available. It's on iTunes now, and it's on our streaming from our own website digitally. You can rent it from our website. So we're going to be having more screenings. I think there's going to be some free screenings coming up in New York, Brooklyn as well. So keep those in mind if you want to pass the word on to anybody and share our website. Thanks so much for coming, everyone, and thanks for
And just a reminder for everyone, we have free posters in the lobby. Please take some home. We want to thank again the Anthology Film Archives. And I wanted to ask, Arun, do you want to say a brief word about Haymarket Books?
They do have a lot of copies.
Okay.
They found a whole bunch more.
Yeah, so I know some folks know, Michelle and I, we've gone across the country, gone to 40 different occupations in 27 states in the last year, and there have been a lot of books about the Occupy movement, but the one, and we've looked at them all, but the one that Haymarket is selling is really the best book about the Occupy movement. It's a great book to give to people. It not only describes why Occupy worked and the politics. Reading it, it really does take you back there and gives you the sense of just the joy and feeling that we were winning for once. So it also makes a cool gift for anyone who's curious about the movement.
Great. All right, and I understand there are some demonstrations happening tomorrow, so everyone should probably get some rest. But we have plenty of, again, posters, and we'd love to talk to you more in the lobby. Thank you.